You're listening to the VMJPod's Employee Brand Series. I'm David Macciocca, and joining me for this special Sydney edition is Brie Mason. Together, we're unpacking what's really working in employee brand today, from fresh ideas to actions driving real change inside leading organisations.
Well, welcome to the VMJPod series, where we're unpacking employer brand. I'm David Macciocca.
I'm Brie Mason from AMP.
And I'm Manuel Lopes from CPA Australia.
And we have a cracking episode. This is going to be quite unique because we're going to be unpacking the relationship between internal comms and employer brand. And Manuel actually does both.
I love that.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So employer brand and communications lead at CPA Australia. So I look after our internal communication strategy, manage the channels on which we deliver our messages, and then I'm also in charge of our employer brand, so employer value proposition and the campaigns that are associated with that.
That's incredible. You don't often see those two functions coming together. It makes sense, but often employer brand can sit in a HR or a talent acquisition function, sometimes owned by marketing.
What do you think it makes sense, Brie?
Well, a big part of it, and I think often a big missed part of it, is of really building a strong employer brand is embedding it internally, embedding your EVP, bringing it to life. That often isn't done so well. So this is a great matching, I think, in enabling you to do that, right?
I feel we're going to talk a lot today about purpose because purpose is strong. It's very clear in terms of what the organisational purpose is. And I think that alignment with brand, master brand, so both our customer value proposition and employer value proposition is strong. So it makes sense from a communication perspective to have those messages, those themes consistent and clear with a strong cadence because I guess that it gives people real clarity around why they're here. The purpose is bigger than, I guess, any one individual, but it's important to understand what your role is within that.
So we spoke off air and you spoke about the one message across internal comms and employer branding, and you just sort of shared just then, in summary, you don't want them to drift apart. How do you rein that in? How does that happen?
So I think it comes down to how you set it up to begin with. So when we're looking at the CPA brand, which is led by its purpose, our identity is one. There is one identity which I guess is built on a set of shared values. And those values, that identity, that voice talks to two very different audiences. So it talks to our customers, so our members, both existing and prospective members, and then it talks to our people. So what we're talking to our members about is obviously the value that we bring to the designation, to the industry. And that is very much around recognition, around respect and the opportunities that the designation enables for them. For our people, it's...
Your employees.
Yeah, for our people, for employees, it's around contribution towards that. So where is your place? What is the pride that you, I guess, can take in terms of delivering towards that? And so it's aligned in that respect, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Does that sound easy?
That makes sense.
How do you get it there, though? That's what I'm curious about.
I think the strategies align. So when you're looking at the foundation, when you're looking at master brand, the relationship between master brand strategy, customer brand strategy, and employer brand strategy, it's a parent relationship. So they're both sitting alongside of each other, and they're both in alignment. They both answer to the employer brand. So there's the master brand. So master brand, I guess, dictates who we are and our identity, our tone of voice, and then we apply those consistently through those two child relationships.
Yeah. How different is the messaging then for each? Because I think you've with the value proposition, you've got your set of kind of values and the things you want to talk about. Likewise, I think if you think about your messaging out to customer, is it complex managing Quite different messages?
Look, I think that you need to answer what it is that the audience is looking for. So if you imagine, I mean, we're all familiar with, I guess, a pyramid model where you have that, awareness and that consideration stage. So if we're looking at, and I'm talking out of school here because I'm obviously not in charge of the customer brand, but we're looking at that consideration phase. It's, I guess, providing all of the information, the features, the differentiation between us and other professional designations. Why CPA Australia? And that's very different from a prospective member viewpoint as it is to potential employee perspective. So I guess we're answering those questions. Why should I join CPA Australia as an employee? Why should I join CPA Australia as a member? So the tone, the identity are the same, but the questions that we're answering on both those sides is different. It ladders up to the same thing, and we're all here for the same purpose, but we're answering those needs, if you like, those need states. We're addressing those, so it is different, I guess, in terms of messaging.
What do you think the critical skills are that employer branders need or could have to also own internal comms?
Storytelling.
Okay.
And it comes down to, again, being clear and being genuine. I think that there's this misconception of employer brand as recruitment marketing. Perhaps maybe that's where it began. But if I'm looking back at, very early on in my career where I was in banking, I was in Asia, the marketplace, I mean, this was during the financial boom, the market was defined by a critical shortage of skills. And so for us to compete, it was around packaging up our value proposition. And it wasn't about saying things that people wanted to hear. It was saying things that we had license to say, what was true and what could be, evidence in terms of lived experience as opposed to just where we wanted to get to. And so I guess very early on it was around, creating this model, this discipline that wasn't really defined as employer brand yet at that stage. The closest thing to it was marketing and recruitment and recruitment campaigns. But I think that to answer your question, it's an evolution of that in the sense that you are not only, selling the opportunity, but you're also showing what life is like through people's stories, genuine people's stories. And they live true both on the member side and the employee side, I feel.
So employer brand is employer brand. You're the custodian of the brand. You've got your EVP pillars. You are either looking to attract or retain, do internal mobility. There's lots of things that employer branders can do. From an internal comms perspective, there's getting employees to tell their story. That's would be a superpower for internal comms, I'm assuming, right? The strategy. And aligning that with employer brand. But what are the other skills that you have that fall within internal comms that a traditional employer brander might not have?
It's funny because I don't feel, we're talking about it as though they're very clearly, defined roles. And it's funny because sitting in the seat, I don't really feel as though 1 minute I'm doing one thing and the next minute I'm doing the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we've set up, I guess, we spoke about EVP and EVP framework, so what those messaging pillars are. So from there, we have, I guess, an experience guide, if you like, so experience principles. And these are essentially telling us how we want the employee, the individual, to feel throughout the employment life cycle. So these principles, this model applies to how we would design a talent acquisition process, how we would design an onboarding process, how we do our PDP process, or how we do, kind of internal mobility or whatever the case may be. These are the same messaging framework that we use in internal comms. So internal comms as a function is there to inform, engage, and inspire our people, ultimately create a sense of belonging. But those messages are really what resonate through everything that we do, whether it be an email from the executive telling us about a change in the business. The reason for that change is always articulated. And that is, I guess, consistent with what those value messaging pillars are. And whilst, a people's story might be at the other end of it, it's showing that in motion, in action. It's showing how that is lived, that particular message. Here is it. Here's the evidence of it. Here it is in action. So I kind of feel that
there's a big blurred line between the two. There's huge crossover.
Yeah.
It is really neat. I think from talking to you, what I get a sense of is your visibility into the strategy and bringing it together. So that thoughtfulness of, all right, these are what our pillars are. The message needs to align with that. That would be one of the benefits. That's obvious in our conversation. That's clear. What are your thoughts, Brie?
I was curious. Actually, was going to ask, what do you see are like the real key benefits that you've been able to realise by having that kind of that joint role? That if even more traditional employer brand role, you wouldn't be able to achieve.
Yeah, I think that the benefit is that in terms of shifting perception of who we are as an employer in market, everything that we do in terms of campaigns, in terms of external messaging, internal messaging, always lands in one of these messaging pillars. And this is also the lived experience internally. This is how we communicate. This is how we engage. This is how we foster belonging. It's around exactly the same pillars. So I think the benefit is consistency around this. And I feel that what makes this, I said we talk a lot about purpose, and I think it is that purpose. From day one, what's attracted me to the role is the fact that it's incredibly simple. 140 years ago, these group of guys got together to basically better the accounting industry. Their whole purpose was, how do we actually make this a better place for practitioners within our field? How do we give them visibility, give them the tools that they need to be more effective, to be able to contribute more? And that hasn't changed to this day. That's still very much what our purpose is. Our purpose is to partner with accountants for progress. We're defining the future of the accounting profession. And I think that if I compare this to banking, or I compare this to energy companies that I've worked at previously, there are always big messages around, hey, we're solving the world's energy problem, but there's always conflict.
It's not a lived experience.
Yeah.
Because you have members, right? And members are accountants looking for advice, and you're that beacon for them, right?
Yeah, essentially. And I think that internally, that's what we all answer to. So there's this. It's almost kind of like a lived. It's culturally present everywhere. It's like, if I want to do this project, the question is this the best way to spend member money? Is this a worthwhile exercise to do? Yes or no? At the end of the day, that gives us a frame of reference, and it's consistent. It's not. There is no, I guess, trying to disguise, commercial aspirations or what it is that we're trying to do, who we're answering to in terms of stock markets or shareholders or anything like that. Yeah. We're almost kind of free from all of that, in the sense that we're here, to make, the experience for members exceptional.
Yeah, this works well. Sorry, ask a question then. My just observation is I think this model works really well when you truly are in a purpose-led organisation. And I think the difference, be it from a telco or an energy company or a bank, perhaps may not seem as purpose-led sometimes. So I think this is really where it does work so effectively, and it is a good model.
Anything surprised you having taken ownership of internal comms with employer brand? Maybe the tooling or your executive sponsor saying yes to you a little bit more to do certain things? What are some of the benefits or surprises that you've encountered?
Look, I think the biggest one was probably on day one where, welcome to the organisation. God, we didn't think that we'd find somebody who'd be able to do both of these two things.
So you're a unicorn.
It's this
employer brand
experiment.
is really rare, let alone add on internal comms.
So it did feel initially like it was a little bit of an experiment. But when you look at,
did you walk into a bed of roses where you're all tooled up with ready to go to do everything you wanted? Did you ask for money at that stage to do some things?
What was I going to say? It all ladders up there. So when you look beyond, employer brand or EVP, when you're looking at the broader people strategy, and on, the introduction to the people strategy, it's the organisational purpose, and it's exactly the same on the other side in terms of external engagement that, covers marketing and brand, and it's exactly the same. It's never too far away from what we do, and therefore our messaging and how we want to define those lived experiences.
This episode is brought to you by VMJ, the employee-generated content platform helping organizations tell their story through the voices of their people. Formerly known as VMJ Job, VMJ makes it simple to create once and repurpose everywhere. One employee video becomes blogs, quote cards, and social posts, all automatically edited, branded, and ready to share. Our AI-accelerated platform makes it easy to scale authentic storytelling, showcase your culture, and attract the right people. Ready to see what's possible? Visit videomy.co to learn more.
What do you think when or how do you feel when you see employer brands teams reporting into talent acquisition? What does that immediately trigger your thought about their internal culture?
Look, I feel that with just about any other function, there are different maturity models with them. And I think that there's nothing wrong with, defining employer brand as a talent acquisition function or a recruitment marketing function. It serves its purpose. And I think that, they'll probably tick a box in terms of, the values and the organisational behaviours and, vision and mission and all of those things. But I guess it just comes down to how genuine all of that is. And depending on, I guess, what it is that you're looking for, I'm assuming we're talking to employer brand folk out there, right?
Yeah.
It just really depends on what it is that you're looking for. Are you going to find, this type of role in every organisation? No. But I also feel that there's an element of campaigning, if you like, and agitation that we need to do to, I guess, sell the benefit of alignment, sell the benefit of, real genuine people storytelling to get it to that point. So, I don't...
What's your relationship with talent acquisition in your current environment?
So how the function works?
How do they engage with your function and area of responsibility?
So look, they're experts at what they do, sourcing and I guess converting candidates through that process. For me and for employer brand or EVP, it's around defining that lived experience. What do we want candidates to feel? How do we want them to respond to, I guess, an opening narrative, or how do they feel on when they land on the LinkedIn Live page or whatever? So we define that experience, if you like, and then talent acquisition do their thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I know in all my employer brand roles, I've been flat out not feeling like I can actually achieve all the things I need to do or want to do. You've got another added responsibility. I'm curious, what other things you're focusing on in your role, and where are you spending a lot of your time?
So most of the time, it's probably a 50-50 split, to be honest. The communications side of things has a little bit more of a rhythm and a flow. Our calendar is drawn out right from the start of the year, and it incorporates everything from high-level town halls through to our spotlight sessions, which are a little bit more focused on engaging the community, our internal community, on key projects and key investment areas. We have weekly newsletters, and then we have Viva Engage, which is kind of like our community, belonging type level. And these are always on, so this is always happening. We've always got, something in the calendar in terms of spotlight or town hall that we're planning towards. And these are massive because...
That's a lot of work in itself.
Yeah, but it's not. Look, I don't, there's a team of us that look after, I guess, that and how we come together. And then on the EVP side, it's really around, strategically fine-tuning our plan, the campaigns, and how we're bringing it to life. The storytelling element of that is very important, and so we're always looking at... I actually do want to talk about storytelling because I kind of feel it is really important, at least for us. And what we've done with people's stories is not... We've tried to move away from, day in the life of, or, focus on the role, and actually focus on who the individual. So if we're doing a people's story on Jane, who's Jane? Like, before she comes into the office, who is she and what makes her interesting? Has she travelled the world? Has she got a double degree? Is it about being a mum, or is it that she trains, dogs in her spare time? How do we welcome her?
I think all accountants have split personalities.
Well, we don't employ accountants, so they're our members. But everybody, it's interesting. How do we welcome her to bring
Her authentic
that
self.
whole self to work? And how do those nuances, how do those things help her be better at her role? And so you end up with this read that's actually, I feel, a little bit more interesting, but it is genuine. And at the end of the day, what is her role in delivering our purpose? And I feel that to read that as a prospective, somebody going through the candidate process or thinking about joining us, I think that there gives you an idea of what it's like to work at CPA, or at least I hope.
Yeah. So you're obviously using that externally to help people understand.
We will.
Well, okay.
So at the moment it's building a library of these. But when we're looking at... and again, the consistency here is important because on the CVP side, on the customer side, we're using real members and real member stories. So if you jump on LinkedIn, if you're looking at our feed and you're looking for campaigns, you will see we feature real members. And the idea is, if you're looking down the same feed, then you'll see real employees sitting alongside real members. And, it ladders up to the same. The purpose is the same. On the one hand, somebody is feeling it and how they're being recognised as a result of being a CPA, how that is opening up doors career-wise for them, and then how employees are contributing to making that happen. How are they enabling that to happen?
That's a great extension of that story. I really like that, how it brings exactly that, how our people are having an impact on the customers, essentially. Yeah. The organisation.
And you personally, how do you go about selecting the Janes of the world to join? Are you mindful of ethnicity, age, gender, or certain role type? Or location, or roles that are hard to fill? Like, how are you thinking through?
There are some logistics around this, and it sounds silly, but one thing that I wanted to do with these people's stories is we wanted to have them photographed properly. But if you're then looking back at, again, the question around how do we, spend member money, then a photography shoot for these stories, probably is a little bit OTT. So what we've done is we've unearthed our internal photography talent, so people who actually, are semi-pro photographers on the side. And then we're matching our people up to those locations. So we've got a photographer here, we've got a person here. And as we kind of uncover more photographers, we'll be a little bit more flexible. But we want to make sure that there is a representation across functions, geographies, especially because international is a very big, important part of. We've got 180,000 members that are spread all over the world. We've got 600 or so employees, of which, I don't know what the numbers are, 80% of them sit in Melbourne. Right, so I guess we want to make sure that there is representation across not only Australian offices but also the international offices as well. So people's stories internationally are important to be represented. But we're not focusing, I think your question was leading to, diversity, and it's the story. We feel as though the house is in order as far as all of that's concerned. And from those messaging pillars, we don't necessarily need to lead, as being a safe place to work. We don't necessarily need to lead, we feel as though the storytelling, the experiences answer all of that. Without the need to actually preach, if that makes sense.
Yeah. In order to, I guess, people like Jane to be part of telling the story, have you found it challenging to get people on board who are willing to be the face of or to tell their story publicly?
Not yet. I think it's around, again, not trying to dress that up too much or trying to make them feel as though we're, showing a side of them that isn't natural or obvious. It's just around, right, who are you? Tell me more about that. And we go down these rabbit holes, completely, like to the point where we're talking about, kids on these, like her kids, for 25 minutes. And then I guess finding in there, a nugget of truth that relates to something, in the work front. Like how does, being organised as a mum or as a parent help you become more organised in project management?
So, Manuel, you're based in Sydney, and you said 80% of people are based in HQ, Melbourne. How are you identifying the talent, the Janes of the world, to participate, and how are you communicating with them?
So I sit in the people and culture team. So within the people and culture team, we have, I guess, a constant flow of nominations, if you like. And so from
how do you get nominations? How do those nominations arrive on your desk?
We will ask the team. So we'll ask the P&C team. So this includes, both those, I guess, more SME functions within the people function, but also the HRBPs. Who are dealing with them on a...
What will you ask them? Who got a promotion, or who's got a unique story?
Who has a good story to tell.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not so much focus on, like upward mobility or performance. It's just, more the storytelling element.
So they divulge the Janes of the world and they say, hey... I've got someone who we believe would be a great nomination. You look at that and you're like,
yeah.
And what do you say to the VP or hiring manager or person who's nominated this person?
So I'll normally follow up. I will normally just organise a quick 10-15 minute chat with that nomination, and just say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the whole concept behind. Do you want to be a part of it? This is what will happen. This is what we'll do, and if there are reservations, obviously, then that's fine. That's where we'll lead it. No issues. And if it's something that they're keen to do, then we'll set up a session and interview questions and photography and go from there.
And how do you explain what's in it for them?
Look, I think it's that's a good question. I think that
sometimes I ask good questions.
Sometimes,
not all the time. No, do you have to explain to does the person who's nominated them, they do all the explaining for you? They'll say internal recognition, external recognition, you'll be our champion.
There is some scene setting, I think, involved in terms of shining a spotlight on your role and, what fits within the organisation and the work that you do. And most of the times that's enough. But it's funny because, like, when we look at, it always comes down to this purpose thing, right? So a large part of the team are in HQ, yet some of the largest member events that we have are in Sydney because the member base in Sydney is huge. So, for instance, we've got MRC, which is a member recognition ceremony. So these are huge. As you may or may not know, to become a CPA, it's just incredibly hard. Yeah. And so when people get to that stage, it's like a big milestone. It's a massive celebration. There's an immense sense of pride. And there's this welcoming, I guess, to that community. So these MRC events are huge. There's one coming up in Sydney. The team that puts them on, obviously, is underrepresented in Sydney. We're a small team here. So the call goes out to the office. And so you have people who are not involved in member services, so people who sit in HR or sit in marketing or sit in IT, basically putting their hand up saying, yeah, this is the biggest part of, what we do as an organisation.
It's a grand final.
And I want, it is, and I want to be a part of it. So it's there's no...
so that's interesting. Your secret sauce is you're taking advantage of a really important moment, a culturally defined moment for your members, to lure stories, to be helpful for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a tricky ask to say, hey, can you come and help us? Yep. Set up chairs or put up banners or dress up the room or help usher people through on the day. It's something that I think people it's ingrained in the culture and people are.
So was that obvious to you when you first joined the company that there was this opportunity where you could sort of draw people in through the grand final of the business?
No, not necessarily. I think that the role on paper sounded exciting, and I think that as you start to understand the organisation and understand, the culture, the heartbeat behind it, then these things then present as opportunities, and you draw programs around them, and that's what's happened.
Yeah. It sounds like you're collecting a lot of stories now. In what ways do you plan to bring those stories to life and to utilise them?
So internally, there is a constant cadence of these stories. We'll put them out every 2 weeks as part of our normal internal newsletter or magazine. And externally, we will use them in campaigns. So if you're looking at, I guess, LinkedIn, for instance, a paid LinkedIn campaign, it would just be a snippet. We would want the photography and I guess the headline to really pretty much be it, and then I guess to kind of then draw enough interest to then let's have a look at the full read of the story, which will then lead you to our careers page or lead you to our LinkedIn Live page, and from there it's not about necessarily selling a project management role or a member services role. It's really just around building general awareness of who we are as an employer of people, and that idea of how we treat people obviously is important. It plays a very important role in terms of member acquisition, because like any organisation, members are curious around the people element of who they are potentially joining. And if we present it as a dodgy employer of people, then obviously they would want to invest that time and money in another destination. So it's really important that both of those are aligned.
It sounds like you're doing quite a bit of talent pooling as well. Is that fair to say? Or by default, these people are following your company your company LinkedIn page if they're interested in an opportunity for you, because your brand is very well known within.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be able to answer to that. I think that talent acquisition in terms of understanding, where the needs are, future needs are, and where the skill shortages are, that would probably fall more to them. But again, if we're looking at our funnel or our pyramid, really very top level of
Top,
that
yeah, top
around
funnel.
awareness is where employer brand
Yeah.
is focused on. We want everybody before they answer a recruitment ad to have an understanding of who we are and hopefully an impression of who we are as an employer. I mean, these things, as we all know, somebody has had a bad experience that they've heard second or third hand from somebody 10 years ago, and that's their only involvement with the brand. So their entire, view of the brand has been formed by that. So if we have these stories out in public, if we have a constant rhythm of, stories that are genuine and honest, then that there is how we will shift that.
Have you found the special sauce, the secret around in terms of what types of stories resonate best with audiences?
No.
Yeah. Damn.
No. But what I will say, though, is that in terms of our profiles, our personas, it's perhaps maybe a little bit easier with us because we don't have too many early career roles. So we're not really, talking specifically to graduates or to, early careers. We're looking at, and we're not talking specifically to accountants we are, ideally talking to people who have experience with member-based organisation, professional services organisations. And so it's a little bit, I think it makes it a little bit easier in that respect.
Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. Any last questions, Brie?
We're not a question as such. I'm just really, I'm intrigued, but I'm also impressed then. I think as I see what you've done around really driving that engagement with your purpose. And I think that's how I see this role kind of working so well. And I said it works better in an organisation that is so purpose-led. But I think that's the core part of what you do. It isn't more around the driving recruitment marketing campaigns to build talent pools. It is really around how do you attract people who align with that, and it's a purpose, excited by that as a purpose to come in, and then just being continually kind of embedding that and making sure people are aligned and are in service of that purpose in every day. And so I can see that being the core focus, and it sounds quite effective.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that it's not complicated, right? We're not trying to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
We're making life better, exciting. The external campaign, so the brand campaign is 3 letters to limitless, and basically the idea around that is that CPA designation behind your name opens up a world of opportunities, doors internationally, and I think that our connection with that is very, very clear and very simple to understand. So.
Well, the opportunity is in front of most employer branders, learning something new, and in this instance, how internal comms can collaborate together with that alignment piece. So I really appreciate you telling your story.
Thanks for the opportunity. Love what you guys are doing, and great to be part of it. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.